There is a bunch of maintenance and engineering roles that you see in many factories, and especially for those not in maintenance or new to the field, it's good to have a bit of an idea, what the different roles are and how we see them in performance excellence. Hello, I'm Tom. Welcome to my channel, where we talk about continuous improvement in an industrial setting. And, as a sort of an extra video on the one explaining a couple of quality department roles, I also got asked to explain a couple of the maintenance department roles. See, maintenance and engineering, they are key parts of any industrial organization, and also from a continuous improvement or performance excellence standpoint, we need to interact with those departments quite a bit. Now, again, right, these names, these job functions, roles, they differ from company to company, from country to country. There is a whole bunch of job descriptions and role names that you will find within that broader engineering field. So probably you have slightly different names, but I'll give you an overview of sort of what the normal structure around the maintenance and engineering for a factory is, and it allows you to sort of quickly map where your colleagues are, what type of roles you might be interested in. So when we look at that, engineering and maintenance, by the way, there is the first thing already. So engineering is basically anything to do with the machinery and how it interacts with the processes. Some companies will specifically have, many actually, will specifically have a maintenance department and an engineering department, with its manager often being the same one. Now, there are companies who would call all of that just the engineering department. There are companies who would call it the maintenance department, but then their manager is called chief engineer. This is a set of roles and departments that are very close. They are linked, but they do have some special roles that we'll get into. I think the best thing to start with is to really just go to, well, not disrespectfully, but the workhorse of maintenance. So the maintenance technician or fitter, or even more specialized roles like an electrician or anything that you see, people who do the actual machine maintenance. So what you will often also see is that if your factory works around the clock, so there is a shift pattern for operators, quite often you will see technicians also working in shift patterns, or in a combined role where you have a couple of maintenance technicians, again, or fitters, or technicians, or mechanics, or electricians, to go round the clock, and also a team that works day shifts when it's easier to get external people in, when it's easier to work together with some of the other roles that we'll be putting on the board today. These are the first people of contact for your machine problems, right? What you want maintenance technicians to do is to make sure that the machines run. So as soon as you have a problem with the machine that the operator cannot readily solve, a maintenance technician, a fitter, a mechanic and electrician is called in to assist in getting the line back up. Now, they will, of course, also do inspections, preventive maintenance, general machine care, but the main function is to make sure that the machine is back on as soon as possible, and again producing good product. That means that these people generally need to have quite a broad role, especially if you have a bit of a wider factory and you're in one of those reliability shifts, or the maintenance shifts, to just make sure you're a breakdown technician. You need to know a bit of the machinery, the mechanics, the electronics, the control electronics, just enough to at least get everything back on. Or what these people also quite often need to do is to contact the original equipment manufacturer and to sort of interface with their experts by phone, by external connections, however they get sort of data from and into the machine, and be sort of the hands and eyes of those experts, but then in the factory. Very nice and varied role. Sort of as I said, right, the workhorse of maintenance. This is the basic maintenance role. These are people, you have many subspecialties, but they need to just be able to get the machines running. Now, some companies will also have a sort of a team that assists the operators in a slightly different way. This, if you are far in autonomous maintenance, autonomous management, you will probably not see. Really, not all companies use it. It's good to know that a whole bunch of companies do use a specialized technician service for specific functions with the machines. So a setup team, a changeover team, a cleaning team specifically, and then cleaning, when it is just your average industrial cleaning, almost always it's under the production department, but you also have very specialized cleaning teams. It depends a bit on your industry, but when that requires quite a bit of technical skill, what some companies will choose for is to have a specific setup, changeover, cleaning, whatever. So the task team with technicians who are specifically trained to change over a line, to install it in a different way, to set it up in such a way that it can then run production. Now, there are a couple of reasons for that. First and most obvious one is that it's very specialized work. On some machines to really set it up. Another reason is that you sometimes have a very large production crew. So when you're running production, you have not just a couple of key line operators, but also people setting up product here, doing some packaging, doing some assembly at the end. So there's like a whole team around the line. When you do production, production is not 24/7, but for instance, only in the day shift or a sort of an extended day shift. And then companies might choose to have a setup crew that does it at night. Or maybe you have only about one setup a week per line, so one setup crew just goes from line to line, stuff like that, right? So it's either an expertise question or it's just a cost question, number of people, but these have a similar profile to the technicians and fitters, just a different role within the business. Now, where the maintenance technicians are really important to make sure that our lines stay in basic conditions and run when they break down, the setup and changeover people, this is a team that if you want continuous improvement in performance excellence, they of course require your attention and to cooperate with them to make sure that your lines are set up per standard every time that you have a first time right on changeovers and that you get this speedy and efficient changeover into the next production run. These teams, they will generally be led from the maintenance engineering department, and doing that is their own management structure. So what you will often see is that the shift technicians and also the day technicians, they are led by either a planner or a team lead. In a bigger organization, these are distinct roles. You will also see things like a short-term and a long-term planner being used, where the long-term planner sort of plans the next planned preventive maintenance and inspection stuff, the big downtimes, planned downtimes. The short-term planner sort of plans the work of next week and makes sure that materials are there. And that can be separate from purely a team lead. If this is separate, then the team lead does the even shorter term steering of what jobs, but they will also be more responsible for the functioning of the team of technicians. But these are roles that are pretty similar in what you do. They prepare the work, so they make sure that work orders are handed out, but also that downtime is arranged for the lines when needed, that materials are on site, like spare parts and stuff like that. That there is communication with external parties when that is needed, like again an original equipment manufacturer or maybe just a specialized engineering company that does a specific task while some of your own people do the general task on the line. A lot of planning and ordering goes into proper maintenance, both the corrective maintenance and definitely the preventive maintenance tasks. So you will always in a maintenance department see at least somebody who is like a planner, a team lead, and the smaller organizations that might be together with the general management of maintenance. But quite often these are just, it's difficult to put a number on it in complete general terms, but every 10 or so people in here will also have somebody over here. So if you've got like a 30-man crew here, 3, maybe 4 people can already be in that planning, team leading type of role. prepping what the maintenance team does. And they report as this is sort of really the maintenance team into the maintenance manager. I will not go too deep into the management role. It's a general department manager, like most of the other departments. It's just maintenance is their responsibility. So everything linked to maintenance. Now, when we link this to CI performance excellence, then here it is really focused on the maintenance organization itself. So basically, you don't often have a lot to do with the planner or team lead unless you get into how efficient are we during planned maintenance tasks. But if you're thinking about, which spare parts should I have on order, or how should I do my inspections, how should preventive maintenance plans be set up, there's usually other specialists within the team, and we'll get to them as well. Because a big part of maintenance is also to have spare parts on site, in stock, and a storekeeper, it can be a very basic level function, like somebody only just making sure that parts are in the correct place and keeping administration. But quite often you will also see that there is this role of storekeeper that is ordering on time, making sure that we know which levels are needed, making sure that everybody can find everything, even going as far as to also sort of work with engineering to make sure that some obsolete parts are no longer ordered, newer parts are ordered, working with delivery time. So you can make this role pretty complex. The basic thing for a storekeeper is to make sure that there is a good inventory management on spare parts. Now, this, of course, if we are talking preventive maintenance pillar, if we're talking about maintenance management, this is a key part of controlling cost, but also of making sure that your maintenance team can do their job. So it's an important 5S type of job. So where 5S for the production, make sure that all the materials are there and all the tools. The storekeeper in the maintenance system makes sure that there is that 5S, that you know that you have all of the spare parts that you need. Maybe also the more specialized instruments and tools are under their purview, and they just they manage the stock levels. They manage also the registration of, because if you use a spare part, costs go into that part of maintenance. Maybe when you refit some parts, like rewinding a motor, they are out of your stock when they are still with the rewiring company, the refitting company. When they come back, they have to get back into your maintenance system, into your store system. So there is quite a bit of spare part interaction and inventory. Almost all companies have at least one storekeeper. Now, for the smaller factories where you have, maybe a couple of technicians, like between 2 and 5, quite often one of them also has that role, just more as a organizing it, and everybody needs to work in the system. As soon as you hit 10 plus technicians, almost always you have like a half-time or full-time at least storekeeper as a specific role. When you see companies combine storekeeper with the planner and the team lead, almost always you're overloading these people. So keep that in mind when you're running your maintenance department. Another very important role, and this one is especially also important for performance excellence, we'll have a lot of contact with them, is the reliability engineer, or maintenance engineer, but usually reliability engineer. So engineers directly in the maintenance department. Now, why are they more important for performance excellence specialists? Well, that is because while the technicians, they do the maintenance work, of course they have specialties as well. They can be sort of a line technician specifically focusing on the improvement around one line or the performance around one line. It is the role of the reliability engineer to check the mechanical system, so to say. So they are the ones who should know the most about how to keep our machines reliable, how to keep them running. They will design the inspection plans. They will design the planned maintenance and preventive maintenance type of tasks and frequencies. So these are the people who sort of set up a lot of what we want to do in continuous improvement, in maintaining the reliability of our machines. These are the people designing the content of your maintenance system. That is why you will have a lot of contact with them. Now, as I said, quite often what you see is that within the group of technicians, especially if you have one of those organizations where a number of people go in shifts, like there's, for instance, 2 technicians who go round the shifts with the operators just to make sure the breakdowns are fixed, and 5 or so technicians who are in a day shift for the normal work days, more or less office hours, and they all have the same role sort of on job description paper, but you will see that those day people will have specific areas, specific lines, and they sort of have half reliability engineer functions baked into it already. But for our thinking about maintenance engineering, it is important to know that there is the basic function of making sure the lines run, just doing the maintenance work, and the function of really looking at the machines, at the processes, and making sure that we keep the machines in optimal condition. These reliability engineers will also quite often have some interaction with like process engineers to find the better settings. See, where a product or a process engineer will find a setting like which pressure, which temperature, it's already with a lot of link to a reliability engineer to say, okay, how many ducts could this machine do? What's the speed of this conveyor? How much pressure can we put, not per se on the product part, but on conveyors, on setters, on all kinds of parts of the machine to make sure that they work in sync, that they don't get overburdened, that you don't get any excess wear and tear. Really interesting functions, also for people trained in continuous improvement. So if you have more of an engineering type of background and you have been in CI, performance excellence work for a bit, these are also very nice roles to go back into, or to sort of switch in and out between more dedicated continuous improvement work or more dedicated engineering work. They are our brains, so to say, in the maintenance field for setting up and improving the system. There are also other engineers. There are a whole set of engineers, and they tend to fall slightly outside of the maintenance department. So the engineering department, project engineers, the projects department, that department, engineering and projects, has plenty of engineers, has plenty of people who started their careers as technicians or as planners and team leads there. It is a very technical set of jobs that we see in engineering or in projects, but it is different from maintenance. Now, what you will see is that during projects or during engineering work, many of the people in the maintenance department will assist here, and also that the engineers from here will help quite a bit over here, especially, of course, with what is typically the function of a reliability engineer. Any engineer who knows the line, who has done all the drafting of the machine, of how it should be, who has had sort of the training on it from the OEM, they will of course help set up the preventive maintenance plans, but also afterwards make sure that they are updated. So that's very close to a reliability engineer. But the thing that I do want to share with you, where a big difference is in engineering and maintenance, is that engineering projects, they put new technology into your factory. The whole maintenance department maintain existing equipment. And I know that that line gets blurry in practice quite often, but this is important to know on an organizational scale. So when you put a new machine into your factory, it belongs to your engineering and projects department. And only when you're happy with that it runs as we predicted, we have all the maintenance plans, right? That stuff all needs to have been set up already. People are trained, operators can work it, our technicians can fit it, can repair breakdowns. We have our planned preventive maintenance, we have our inspection plans. When all of that works and it is validated, that is when a machine is handed over to operations. That is when sort of this team should be able to handle any strange stuff, handle any breakdowns, handle any efficiency problems. Until then, you have people in the engineering roles who should guide that the machine is set up and that it also lands normally within your organization. Of course, when you are an engineer, a maintenance and engineering professional, these are all roles you can sort of move between during your career. There is not a very strict hierarchy. That is, generally, these type of roles can be starter roles, can be full career roles as well. But once you get more into planner, team lead, or into manager, generally people tend not to go back to the more practical roles. But between like reliability engineer, team lead, or specialist for engineering and projects, things go to and fro, right? So you may see that you do a couple of years in an engineering role where you're really on the introduction of new stuff, and then you go back to be a maintenance planner and just take care of the state of the machines. All of that works. But for the rest of the organization, and specifically for management, CI, and performance excellence, we should know the technician. That is the job that we need to maintain the status of machines, or the basic conditions of the equipment, to make sure that when there is a breakdown, it is fixed as soon as possible, but preferably also with a good problem definition and some root cause analysis. So these are people definitely to train in root cause analysis skills. Setup and changeover is a specialized role, but the main thing we should have with them is to make sure we have good and efficient standards that don't only make their work efficient, but the startup flawless. Storekeeper really inside-minded for the maintenance department. We're looking at maintenance cost and maintenance efficiency. Spare parts are key, and the reliability engineers, they will be quite often team leaders for breakdown teams, for unreliability teams, unplanned stop teams. Quite often make sure these people are trained in your CI skills, that they're part of your performance excellence program. And then with engineering and projects, often a bunch of very bright engineers here who are good resources for your improvement teams. If you are slightly further in your continuous improvement journey and you are ready to do your FMEAs and your design for quality and design for Six Sigma, that whole department becomes way, way more important. So if you have already quite some good working standards in your daily operation, then you also really need to incorporate the designing of the equipment and looking ahead to make sure new stuff fits within what you really want from it. Not just that it can make a good product, but also that it is maintainable, that it is safe to work, that it works with your systems. So a whole bunch of jobs within maintenance. I hope this cleared it up a bit. Again, I'll repeat that there are so many job titles within maintenance and engineering, and it differs per region, it differs per company. I cannot mention all of them, but this is the main structure for maintenance in a factory. I hope that helps you. I hope it also sort of allows you to have some discussions on your organization and to define sort of who within our team would fit these roles and who would I like to involve in my continuous improvement program, in the teams that you do, in the Kaizen events, in the improvement teams, in the problem solving trainings that you do. If this triggered a couple of thoughts, then please don't forget to hit that like button, but also share some of those thoughts or maybe questions that this raises in the comments below. I love to work off your questions and the things that keep you busy in your factory. And of course, if you have some nice experiences, don't forget to share them with our community as well. For now, I wish you the best of luck with all of your maintenance and engineering. And as always, don't forget to enjoy the continuous improvement journey.